Thank you so much. It's great to be here. So my talk is going to be the first in a two-part series about the adolescent health and development and context study. I'm going to be talking about future data collection, the next version of the adolescent health and development study that was recently funded, and we hope to get into the field in the fall. And then my collaborator is going to be talking about some results from the original version of the AHDC project. Just by way of background, I'm a statistician, which I think will be probably obvious once I start talking, and Chris is a sociologist at Ohio State. So AHDCII will be starting about 10 years after our original data collection. AHDC1 sampled a random sample of households in the Columbus, Ohio metropolitan area. There were about 1,400 kids who participated in the study along with their primary caregiver. The project involved geographically explicit ecological momentary assessment, so GPS tracking and smartphone-based surveys, as well as a variety of other types of data collection, including biomeasures. So the focus of AHDC2 is very similar, although we are focusing on exposure to adversity, which we define to be area-level violence, policing, and racial exclusivity. And exposure effects on things like physical, psychological safety, stress, and mental and behavioral health issues. We are also looking at the moderating influence of Black other perceived race, so how people believe others perceive their race in the moment. But what I want to focus on is more of the design issues for this second AHDC study. So first, just what's changed over the last 10 years. So when we conducted AHDC1, most of our population, these adolescents, did not have access to cell phones, or particularly smartphones. That's no longer the case. Our sample is adolescents aged 13 to 17, and we expect that most of them will have their own smartphones. Certainly concerns about data privacy are much more, a much bigger issue this time around, and we don't know what the impact of that will be. And then I guess the third thing is just our questions have evolved, the types of things that we're interested in studying based on societal changes over the last 10 years. So our research has also evolved. So we have new hypotheses, new questions that we're interested in. In particular, we're interested in the moment rare events. We're also interested in causal identification, particularly understanding mechanisms. And lastly, our research funds are not going to go as far as they did 10 years ago. So even if we wanted to, we couldn't actually replicate the original study that we conducted 10 years ago. We still care about population level inference, so we really want to be sure that our sample is representative, care about informed consent, and then what hasn't changed, of course, is the budget that we're allowed to spend on this project. So implications, we can't replicate what we've done, but we do want to have a design that's similar enough so that we're able to make comparisons across time. So in order to design the study, we considered trade-offs that involve N, which is the sample size, so how many kids were going to be in our sample. AHDC1 had a little over 1,400 participants. So the higher the sample size, the more likely we are to have a representative sample. And also, which is quite important for our the empirical questions we're asking us, we're able to identify subpopulation differences better when we have larger sample sizes. What we have to trade off, though, is if we have more participants, we perhaps can't run the study as long as we would otherwise. So why do we want a long observation window or study period? We want to see rare events, so we're interested in things like onset of something or whether something occurs, and we just, AHDCI observe kids for a period of a week, which we don't think is necessarily long enough for the types of questions we want to answer. We're also want to capture within place heterogeneity in effects, which require kind of people going to places multiple times. We need that kind of replication. So our compromise is a two-phase design. The first phase will have, or we hope will have, a sample size of 700 participants. It will include one at-home visit, so no smartphone or app involved in that. It will have an entrance survey. We'll have a component that's called a location generator, which is just asking participants to report on their routine activities. And then we will also collect biomeasures in that first phase. The second phase will be conducted on a subset of the phase 1 participants, much smaller sample size, so only 300. The participants will be followed, we hope, for 6 months, and using a smartphone app, and we'll have 3 additional at-home visits. This is important. The 300 sample size is significantly lower than what we had before. So we followed 1,400 kids for a period of a week. Now we're proposing 300 for 6 months. So very different. But we're hoping that that will give us what we want. So a little bit more about this sampling design. So we're going to use a smaller study area to have more overlap between our participants. So this is our study area. We're going to focus on the east side of the city this time, so approximately the eastern half of the city. And then we're going to also do something called stratification on eco-communities. So you're probably familiar with stratification as just a standard tool for increasing statistical efficiency of sample surveys. Our idea here is that if we're interested in measuring exposures, so say we have, just as a toy example, 6 individuals, and we have 3 different levels of an exposure. Instead of just randomly sampling people, we are going to instead take a stratified random sample of 3 different, or participants who have 3 different levels of the exposure. How do we do that? Well, we have our phase 1 data where we have determined, or we know about routine activity locations. So we're going to use that in our phase 2. We're also going to do matching, but for interest of time, I will skip over that. This is just an example of these ecological communities that we get. You can see, maybe you can see that on the eastern side of the city, there's overlap in terms of where people spend time. We found with AHDCII data. And in summary, we hope to gain statistical efficiency through this 2-phased design. And so that we're able to learn or answer a bunch of different interesting questions using this much smaller sample size. Some other challenges for discussion, EMA fatigue, 6 months is a really long time. Differences in phone carrying behaviors. We have a perceptive band that the participants are going to use, which helps with us to kind of learn about when the participants are with their phone, not with their phone, as well as collect some of the biomeasured data. And lastly, selection effects. So one concern we have about the types of things that we're interested in studying is certain people are selecting out of participating in particular events or going to particular spaces. And we want to be able to account for that in our analyses. So I'll stop here. Thank you.